I'm John Beasley. This is my audience.
Amy Beasley.
Abigail Beasley.
Phoebe Beasley. Lorelai Beasley.
This is being filmed by Kim Harrelson.
So I want the members of the audience to ask themselves a very simple and important question. Do you feel like you are getting enough human connection in your daily lives? This can be something as simple as, do you think your book club is not meeting up enough every month? Do the people at work maybe ignore you too much? Or for my younger members of the audience, maybe your friends don't play online games enough together. And when you're asking yourself this question, I want you to be very honest about it. Because if you don't feel like you're getting enough human connection, maybe you're suffering from loneliness. And loneliness is a very important epidemic that I don't feel like people talk about enough. So I started researching it. Because when I reflect on my personal life, and I moved from middle school to high school and high school to college, I felt somewhat outcasted. Didn't really know anyone, felt very lonely, didn't really put my all into my work, so I figured I'd start researching it. And I separated three things. And I want you, when you learn about these three things, I want you to try getting to more group activities. Because one, we're going to talk about the issues of loneliness. Two, we're going to talk about how group activities can help cure that loneliness. And three, how your life may be improved in the future when you've cured that loneliness by participating in group activities. So first, I want to talk about the issues of loneliness now that we've gone through that. Loneliness is a very serious issue. It's an epidemic that a lot of people suffer from, and not a lot of people seem to understand it. They have this idea of, loneliness is an issue, you goober, just go talk to someone. And that doesn't really help, because this is a very widespread issue that isn't that simply cured. According to Dominic Benjamin and Facetious Gunmar in their study Loneliness, the Cancer of the Mind, for people under 18, roughly 80% of them reported feeling lonely. And for people over 60, roughly 40% reported being lonely, and then in between being slightly smaller than that 40%. But it's still a very widespread issue, as you can see. And next, when we want to talk about loneliness, we're not talking about social isolation. Because according to Harry Taylor, Thomas Kuju, Fifi Bu, and Michelle Lim in their study, The State of Loneliness and Social Isolation Research, Current Knowledge and Future Directions, we can see that they talk about how loneliness and social isolation is not the same. You can be very lonely and very socially active, or you can not feel lonely and not be very socially active. So a lot of people seem to confuse those two things. And next, I want to tell you about there's a lot of risks associated with loneliness. People don't really seem to think about this, but according to the study by Yuting Liang, Scott Hubner, Lily Tan, and Joint Trajectories of Loneliness, Depressive Symptoms, and Social Anxiety from Middle Childhood to Early Adolescence associated with suicidal ideations, they found that most children that end up taking the extreme of going, taking their own life, report loneliness and not feeling belonging among their peers as the main cause for young children getting the idea of suicide in their head. And that is very, very concerning because a lot of people tend to not, as I said earlier, don't view loneliness as a very serious issue. And when we look on the flip side with adults, even though loneliness may not drive them to that extreme, we see in the study by Daiki Nakashima, Hisuki Fuji, Yuta Kuba, and Yuzura, in relationships between loneliness and occupational dysfunction in community-dwelling older adults, a cross-sectional study, they found that adults that don't get enough social interaction, that they feel very lonely, tend to not perform that well in their work. They tend to have less functioning work lives. They tend to have this idea of no one here really cares if I do my job properly or not, so I'll kind of just do half the work there. I won't put my effort in everything, I'll just do the bare minimum to skip through. And that's not very good for someone's work life. That's not really culturally accepted in most places. So now that we've talked about the issues of loneliness, the concerning statistics behind it, I want to tell you about how group activities can help alleviate that across multiple age groups and why you should consider them. So when we go to doing group activities, we've learned that, group activities are very good. As I may have mentioned earlier, I used to participate a lot in high school and club activities with board game clubs and art clubs, and it helped me build a really close connection with my peers and made me feel very welcome in my high school. And that's a very important thing. According to Eva Aberte, Ryan G., Martin Goon, and Kimberly Skern-Reichel, and Anne Gruberman in their study Benefits of Extracurricular Participation in Early Adolescence Association with Peer Belonging and Mental Health, they found that pushing younger children that may have avoided things that require group activities like sports, group projects, or just simply reading among their siblings or friends, found that when they forced younger children to start participating in these events, they had increased mental health. And two, they felt like they belonged more among people their age, and it helped improve their mental stability and helped them get more academically involved as they went through school. So it helped them a lot. And that's very important, as you can see. Another thing is that when you participate in these group activities, when you go out and participate in tournaments for a card game like Magic the Gathering, or you participate in talking with people in a book club, it gets you very interested with people that share a hobby with you, and that's very important. As we see from the study, getting involved in the community, What Stops Us by Fran Money, Nazir Rafiq, and Lily Tilly, we learned that there's a very concerning thing. And that is, most people don't participate in group activities because they have this fear that I don't have enough money for it, or I don't really, know of anything in my area, or I don't trust people out there. That's not very good. And I want people to look past that fear of why they might not participate and go and do it anyway. Okay, go to your public library, see if they have a book club if you like reading. Maybe go see some online forums of your favorite book and talk to people there. Or maybe just schedule a movie night with your friends. It doesn't have to be very expensive. It doesn't need to be somewhere out there in the middle of nowhere where you're out in the middle of the desert, you don't feel very safe. Now that we've talked about why you should join in group activities and how it can help you and how simple it can be, I want to show you how your future life can be once you have participated in these group activities. So what is your future going to be like? Well, your future is going to be very good. Avoiding it isn't going to help. Imagine yourself in the future, surrounded by like-minded individuals. You share the same hobbies. Everyone's smiling. Maybe for one of my audience, maybe my sister, she probably also liked Twilight. Very rare, elusive breed of people, but maybe she found them. She's a lot happier because she did, and that's a very good thing. According to the study, National Institute of Aging, which is part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, in their study, Loneliness and Social Isolation, Tips for Staying Connected, being involved in these group activities is very good. Your future, a lot longer. You live longer. And not only that, but you find a greater purpose in your life. Your future is very bright. But what if you don't do this? Well, that's very bad. If you don't participate in these things, well, your life's probably going to be very empty, very bleak. You don't talk to people, you don't feel very connected, your hobbies are very isolated to yourself, so they don't really have much meaning, and your life just isn't going to be that bright. So I want you all to consider participating in group activities. And so, in conclusion, we've talked about the issues with loneliness, the statistics behind them. We've talked about the benefits of joining group activities. And 3, how your future is going to be better with group activities. And with all that said, I want you to go out and join in. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be very fancy. It can be something simple like a book club, or maybe just going to a trading card tournament. But I want each and every one of you to get out there and join in, because I want you to crush your loneliness before your loneliness crushes you. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah.